Welcome to Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with. What we hear and what we listen to throughout our day can shape how we feel. If we feed and nourish our soul with wholesome conversations from everyday people, filled with positive stories that people can relate to, we may feel less alone and even inspired. We're all working through our own stuff, and sometimes you need to hear people's failures, successes, and everyday struggles. Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with is talking to everyday people about how they have journeyed life so far, with hopefully some amazing take-homes and some top tips for you. Thanks for joining us each week for another amazing conversation. It really is all about talking. So think, reach out, talk to somebody. Who will you have a conversation with? Welcome back to Wellbeing with Manny in conversation with. Thanks so much for giving up your time to either listen or watch. So today we have a really special guest with us. We have Olissa Rogers. Welcome to Wellbeing with Manny, Olissa.
Thank you for having me, Manny.
You're very welcome. So if we don't know Olissa Rogers, and it's a crime if we don't, what do we need to know about you?
I work in casting, so I'm a casting associate at the moment, but I started doing projects independently as a casting director, which is a bit scary, but I had to take that next step. And I think that's me in a nutshell. Long story short, I do have a background in musical theater and drama, but my main focus is casting, and I've done that for now 14 years on and off.
Okay, fab, amazing. And we always start with the same question, which is, what does well-being mean to you?
Well-being, the first thing that pops to my head is balance. So a healthy work-life balance is well-being, that you just have your life in balance and happy and content and peaceful. That's for me is well-being, I would say.
Yeah. And so the big question is, do you feel like, generally speaking, you manage that balance?
Yes, I do feel obviously everybody has their down days. Nobody is perfect. Nobody can always be woo. But if I ever feel down, I do manage to pick myself up again and find that kind of balance. So it's become more and more easier for me. Whereas in the past, I was more imbalanced, but now I feel like I've found control of how to find that for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you feel like you've kind of managed that over time? So you have like tricks and tips that you will go to, so you kind of recognize when you're not in balance and what you need to do more of or less of?
It's just recognizing and acknowledging what might trigger me in situations, just recognizing that I have that, and then try to work through it, whatever it is. Friends, relationships, family, whatever comes up, just the first thing is acknowledging it and not living, because a lot of people live in denial. It's like it's just going to build up and explode.
Awareness is key. I always say that awareness is key. How do you feel like the industry is kind of emerging from, obviously, the difficulty of the past couple of years in terms of well-being within our industry? It's kind of quite a bit of a topic at the moment. There's a lot being spoken about. What angle do you think we're going in at the moment? Do you think we're going in the right angle? What are your thoughts on things at the moment?
I personally feel like it hasn't gone enough into the right direction, because people then just go back into their old habits. That's the problem. You fall back into the old habits. You might start with saying, oh, I need to change, I need to go do things better, but you don't pull through with it. And I feel even though the pandemic has shown what's important and self-reflection and to slow down and everything, even though people did it in the beginning, they go back into their old habits, and then it's again work. It didn't affect me because like I'm not going to go back there, but I feel like a lot of people tended to fall back into bad habits, put it that way. So I do feel like it needs to be even pushed more and more and more. It's going in the right direction, but I feel like it's also, there's a tendency to fall back into the old pattern, which is not
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I've noticed is that in terms of kind of actors, there seems to be a real recognition that, improvements need to be made. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about yes, no, when we've been to castings, and I'd love to get your view on that. But also, for me, it always feels like, yeah, that's great. We should be looking after our actors, absolutely. But what about our creatives? What about our agents? What about our casting directors? Who's there to look after them? That's the bit I feel is maybe missing a bit. I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, I feel like people don't recognize that as well. Like either side, you always have to see every perspective, see the whole picture. But also with the pandemic and with everything online and everything accessible, our work has doubled.
Yeah.
So the fact that also needs to be taken into consideration. You don't have to see 20 people in a room. You can see 50 self-tapes instead. So there's just much admin, and then you don't say no to 20 people, you say no to 50 people. And if you don't have the yes no system, that means you have to send 50 emails rather than 20. And that's just like, I'm not, it's not an over exaggeration, so it's actually more than what I'm saying. So that's also something to be aware of. If agents check in and ask, is there any news, have they gotten any further, we would give them the feedback, obviously. But if we see so and so many people for a role, there's just sometimes not the time, because we see several roles, not just one part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that's really understandable, but there is so much about this, yes, no, and it's just, you can see already that it's not, sometimes not workable. And I guess that's a really good way of doing it, actually, through an agent and saying, look, is there any chance? That's a good way. And that's one thing I was going to ask you actually about, the accessibility of you now. How do you manage that in terms of boundaries? Because in life in general, we're so contactable, just the touch of a button, you can add someone on Twitter, you can do this, whatever it is. How do you manage that in terms of, just caring for your own boundaries?
I used to not have my emails on my phone. I was like, nope, if it's important, people can call me. Like, I'm not here to say, I'm not saving lives. If it's really urgent, you got my phone number. So that's the thing, because people still have all their emails on their phone, and their phone is now with them 24/7. It's like an accessory. It's like your second part of skin that people just constantly check. And I can't, because there's no emails apart from some, but it doesn't give me notifications. So I've learned to not just to shut down. Like when I'm at home, I'm not gonna work, or I just set my boundaries for myself, which is good. I know obviously if it's busy and we need the US agents, and that there are exceptions to the rule, of course, 100%, but it's not an everyday thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I did that as well. A good few years ago, actually, I took work emails off my phone, and I think it is life-changing, because you're just not, tempted to just like get an email and go, I'm going to look at that, because then I know what I'm like. I'll then end up dealing with it, outside of time, in the evening or whatever. But like you say, when you're working in, your industry, which I can assume is so international, I suppose there is just times when that you're going to be working different hours.
You're prepared for it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And then exactly, it's all about preparing. So your social media, let's talk about how uplifting and positive and gorgeous that is. And it really is, it really, really is. And it makes such a difference, I think, because, when you are kind of, I'm not kind of a scroller, but I do kind of have a little look every now and then. And I like tweeting really positive things myself, because I think when your brain attracts things. When you see something good and positive, it attracts that. How do you keep yourself so positive? How where's that all come from? Where do you think it all stems from?
I've always been that way, weirdly enough. So I remember my mom would always say, you're always so positive, Olissa. I mean, since I was a kid, you always say it's going to work out. How can you do that? It's so fascinating. Yeah. So I've had that probably in me since I was a child, because I literally been like that all my life. Because my sister, she's the complete opposite. My mom was like, you're always so positive. You always see the good in people. You're always this. You're always so positive, Olissa. You never give up. So I don't think, nothing really happened for me to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Just been that kind of kid.
Yeah.
Because some people like go through things that will change their life, and of course I've gone through my ups and downs and through several things in my life, but my positivity has started since I was a child, I would think. Also, yeah. So
Yeah. Oh, it's just
yeah.
lovely. It really, really is. And in terms of, obviously you work in casting, and I'm sure that so many people would love to ask little questions about, for actors to keep going. I think one of the things that I've chatted with some of my friends, actor friends, about, they've said, it's really difficult because you see someone and they've like had 20 self-tapes 1 week and you've had nothing. And I guess, what little bits of advice would you give to any actors who are listening, who are going, how can I just keep going? How can I keep that sense of positivity when things just seem like they're not going my way? I'm sure it's a question you've been asked before.
Yeah, it has. Keeping positive is not easy, but what does it help to be negative? I'm like, then look at the other side. Do you want to do that? I think just look at both positive, negative, what's better. But some people are just negative, and I stay away from them because they just drain. But I think I tell people, just know it's all gonna be happening when it's supposed to happen.
Yes.
Timing thing. It's just keep yourself distracted, do other things, because it always happens when you least expect it. That sentence is not there for nothing. Yes. That's the truth. It always happens when you least expect it, and mostly it's the perfect timing. And I went to 11 drama schools back then. I failed all of them, and then I thought, okay, if I would have gotten into that one school, I would be stuck in a little town in Germany nobody knows about, rather than being in an exciting country, London, doing what I love as well. So you learn in the backwards why things didn't happen out the way they're supposed to work out.
Yes, totally agree.
I think what you make you stronger. Sorry, Manny. That's what I say. You learn, you get stronger, you get better. The more failures, the stronger you get. Those people, you're gonna like come out like, boom, here I am. So
exactly what I was going to say. I think I was talking about this the other day, that failure and success live in the same land. Like, you have to fail, you have to learn, you have to grow, you have to develop, and then you have to try again, and you have to then get to the point. And I think sometimes you have to get to the point where you want it, you absolutely want it, but you know that it will happen because you just keep going and you just keep going. But the failures, I think, are everything. I'm absolutely a fan of failure. I think it's great. Yeah. You've got to try, you've got to get it wrong, something's got to happen, and then eventually and you hear it all the time, don't you? How many stories of, specifically sports people. I've been listening to some sports podcasts recently. They're the ones that you want to listen to if you want to think about mindset. Honestly, some of those stories have just been so inspiring about, people who, even people like Andy Murray, with his hip, and, they have these massive setbacks and then a huge, huge win. And I think it's the same. It's such a parallel with acting, I think. So, yeah.
Very much. Yeah. You just keep on going and you keep learning new things. What can I do better next time? And then you just add that on top, and you build more and more and more and more and more and more. Yeah. And you just go past those that maybe got a lucky shot, but they didn't grow. They just were like, okay, I got this. I don't have to work on myself. Rest the others are, hi, bye.
Yeah, that's really true. Actually, I never thought about it that way, that actually the harder you've had to work to get there, you appreciate it more and you actually keep flying. Whereas the ones that maybe, not saying that people who get a lucky break haven't worked hard, but maybe some that do maybe just kind of go, oh, well, I'm kind of cruising. Whereas actually the others around them have learned to kind of fly quite high with it. Love that way of thinking. Yeah. So in terms of like your kind of creative world and the casting world, what do you think the actors really, or anyone working in the industry kind of really could do with focusing on to improve their well-being? So what things are your go-to? So like I ask people quite often, what is your go-to? Like if you're having a day where you're just like, this is all too much, or, you know, even someone's learning a script too much, or you're looking at like the, you know, 84,000 self-tape and you're just like, I cannot take anymore. What's your go-to thing?
I sometimes either I do meditation or I go the complete other extreme. So like working out or boxing, swimming, something to get it out
Yes.
or just to calm yourself down. So it depends on what works better for each individual. Sometimes you just need to get it out. Some people love running. I hate running. So it's like before you run, get out of your head. I like climbing because you have to focus on where to go next. You're completely in your head. So I think those are good examples for people just to try to put their mindset to something else.
It's an interesting, it's an interesting one, meditation. I've had so many people use meditation as their go-to, and I think it's really interesting what you said about it. Depends where your headspace is at, because some people who are feeling a bit, just don't want to sit and kind of just think, you know, it's about, like you said, getting rid of some energy or like burning something off and just kind of clearing your head, which actually sometimes for some people anyway, meditation just doesn't do. I know I like going out for walks, getting in nature, like that's my thing. I used to run, not so good anymore. I'm with you on that, but yeah, just getting out there, or just like putting some really good music on and having a really good dance, you know, just like you say, getting something out there rather than sitting still. And that's a really good one.
I think you can do a combination as well. And meditation, I know I'm the last person that was like meditation. I always have to do something. I'm always trying to get myself busy, but you can do guided meditations. They can be really fun because you're still busy, but in a still way.
Yeah.
And then you'll slowly be able to train yourself to go into longer meditations. Like now I can do 50-minute meditations, obviously guided, but like stillness, I could probably do 15. Whereas before I would not be able to do it for 2 minutes.
Yeah. It's a practice, isn't it? It's something that you do have to practice. I know I like a guided meditation. I think if I was sat by myself, left to my own devices, I would just wander. Whereas in a guided meditation, I feel like I'm being like a really good student if I do it really well. I quite like people thinking I'm doing a good job. So I like sitting and, you know, somebody's talking me through something. I love it. But I feel more positive and more productive when I've had that moment in the morning or the evening or both, you know, to just do something, you know, for myself, definitely. The other thing that I've asked people about on the channel is about self-care, as well as obviously doing something like meditation or going out into nature or exercising. People have talked about, you know, maybe like journaling. We had somebody talk about rage on the page the other day, which I absolutely loved, which is where you just kind of like get all your thoughts out. Do you have any other kind of like go-to self-care tips that you use or that you would share with anyone?
Also journaling, so writing it down.
Yeah.
And I think writing letters to the people, what you've always wanted to tell them, something that you maybe couldn't tell them in person, but you want to get it off your mind. That's helped me a lot. And then you can burn the letters. But I remember if you had issues with parents, friends, relationships, just writing letters, what you would love to say, and then burn it. And then it's like releasing that energy. We're all energy. So I'm very much an energy believer, but writing letters to people that you feel you need to clear the debt or clear the page, clean slate, make a clean slate.
I love that. I've not heard that before. I really like that. Writing a letter to someone. You sometimes you spend time thinking about and maybe overthinking about issues you've had with someone or something that you wish you'd said, and actually
apologizing, whatever you want to do. A lot of forgiving yourself is the hardest thing ever. And then you just release all of that as well, stuck things. So that will help you to vibrate higher.
Yes. Oh, I really love that. Yes, I really like that. Oh, that is a good place. That is a good place to kind of draw everything together. And writing letters, I really love that. Look, I know that we're recording this quite late for people who are going to listen to this whenever, so I'm not going to keep it too long, But yeah. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming and for giving us your time. It's been really lovely to talk to you. And for me, having open conversations that people can listen to, relate to, talking about failures, talking about successes, it's just everyday struggles. And the more you hear other people talk about them, the less alone you feel. And that's kind of what it's all about. So just a huge thank you for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored. I was asked.
Oh, thank you. Oh, it's a pleasure. And keep your positive tweets coming because we love them.
I will. I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being part of this Wellbeing with Manny community. It really means a lot to me that you can spare some of your precious time to listen to these conversations. Please share this episode with anyone you think would benefit from hearing these open and real conversations. And remember, talking is key. Who will you have a conversation with?